You know, we talk about perfectionism all the time. But is it this incredible engine that drives us to do amazing things, or is it just a fast track to burning out? It's this age-old debate, right? Is setting these super high standards for ourselves a blessing, or is it a curse? Well, let's dive in and see what the science actually says about walking this tightrope.
So on one hand, that drive for perfection, it's connected to some really great stuff, like better grades, being more engaged in your work. But on the flip side, it almost always goes hand in hand with anxiety, burnout, and just feeling pretty miserable. It's a total paradox, and it leaves a lot of us wondering if our own ambition is actually helping us or if it's hurting us.
And hey, this isn't just a personal dilemma we all face, it's a real scientific puzzle. Just listen to researcher Patrick Gaudreau, who pointed out that the entire field has struggled to pinpoint exactly when and for whom perfectionism tips the scales from good to bad. So yeah, it's a genuine mystery that researchers have been trying to solve for a while now.
Which brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. Under what specific conditions do our high standards start to work against us? What's that secret ingredient, that tipping point that separates healthy ambition from, the destructive kind of perfectionism?
So, how do we find the answer? Well, we're going to go inside this really fascinating 9-month study. It was set up almost like a detective story, basically hunting for clues in the daily lives of a very specific group of people.
So meet our cast of characters, 183 individuals, and every single one of them agreed to give researchers this incredibly detailed, day-by-day look into their lives during what was a really intense, high-stakes period for them.
And listen, this wasn't some simple online survey. The participants were trainee teachers in Germany, and they were going through this super demanding 9-month practical training. They had to deliver 6 different demonstration lessons, and every single one was evaluated. All the while, they were keeping these daily diaries, tracking their well-being, their habits, their feelings, everything. This gave the researchers an incredibly rich, real-world set of data to work with.
Okay, so with all this data in hand, the researchers identified a couple of key suspects. Factors that could potentially explain when those high standards become toxic. So let's meet them.
Now, both of our suspects fall under this big umbrella term, self-regulation. It sounds kind of technical, but all it really means is the process of managing your own thoughts, your feelings, and your actions to get to your goals. It's basically about being the pilot of your own mind and your own behavior.
Okay, so suspect number 1 was behavioral regulation. This is all about what you do. And the biggest failure in this category, a little thing we all know and love, procrastination. Then you have suspect number 2, which was emotional regulation. So how well you manage what you feel. Think of it as your ability to calm down your anxiety before a big presentation, or your ability to really soak in that feeling of pride after you've done a great job. The theory was it had to be one of these two.
But here's where the story gets really interesting. It's the plot twist. When the researchers started digging into the data, their investigations seemed to hit one dead end after another. And right away, a huge surprise. I mean, you'd think that the people with the absolute highest standards would get the best scores, right? Well, nope. The data showed no clear connection at all. The so-called perfectionists weren't necessarily the star performers. How about that? And then, boom, another dead end. The researchers were pretty sure that emotional regulation, how well people manage their anxiety or their pride, would be the missing piece of the puzzle. But it wasn't. It didn't explain why some people with high standards felt great, while others felt totally miserable. The mystery was actually deeper than they thought. But then, just by looking at the data in a slightly different way, they found it. The one clue that cracked the whole case wide open. And it all came down to our old friend, procrastination.
So what was it? What was this crucial clue? It wasn't about if someone procrastinated. Almost everyone does. The real answer was hidden in how their procrastination habits changed over the 9 months. Did they get better at just getting things done during this stressful time, or did they get worse?
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Check this out. For the people whose procrastination stayed high or only got a tiny bit better, their high standards had a really strong negative impact on their well-being. But now, look at that third bar. For the folks who managed to seriously decrease their procrastination over time, the negative effect of perfectionism on their well-being completely vanished. It was totally neutralized. It's like by tackling their procrastination, they built a shield that protected them from the emotional toll of their own high standards. Amazing.
So, to put it as simply as possible, the people who failed to get a handle on their procrastination were the exact same people whose high standards made them miserable. It turns out that getting better at just doing the work was the antidote to the toxic side of perfectionism.
So what on earth does all of this mean for you, for me, for all of us? Let's break down the practical takeaways here. Because this isn't just some interesting finding, it could really change the way you think about your own ambition and your work habits.
Okay, so here's the bottom line. First off, your high standards might not actually be the enemy here. The real danger is having those sky-high goals without building the habits you need to actually reach them. So, the path to protecting your well-being, at least according to this study, isn't to lower your standards. It's to double down on improving your habits. Specifically, you got to focus on reducing procrastination, because making real progress there can act like a buffer, protecting you from the dark side of your own ambition.
And that leaves us with this final, really powerful question to think about. Maybe we've been asking the wrong thing this whole time. Instead of constantly worrying, are my standards too high? Perhaps the much more important question we should be asking ourselves is this: am I actively building the habits to support them?